We have another round of seed-funded projects presenting their results. As most of you know, the IMC seed funding is kind of a key instrument, and it allows to explore novel ideas, typically in collaboration with novel people. And the idea is to allow you to plant something that can hopefully grow into a new idea, a project, a grant, or something else. And the seed funding presentations are a way to also get an idea about what type of projects are happening in different parts of the Aarhus University space, and particularly that part of it associated with the IMC. We have two talks on the program today, both of them coming from the School of Management. We have had to postpone Alexander Kratschmer's talk on vaccination, but that will be coming back at a later stage. So first here is Martin Wurzer talking on the effects of prestige on opportunity confidence and venture idea revision. Please unpack that for us, Martin. It's a lot of stuff chopped into one title.
It's a lot of stuff, yeah. Thank you very much, Andreas. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in on my presentation about our project, which is about the influence of prestige on opportunity confidence and on venture idea revision, a manipulation-of-mediation approach. Apart from me in the project, there's Carsten Bergenholz, Michael Sagel, Kenneth Nygård, and Kim Kluwer. And yes, I brought a lot, so I'm happy that I have a bit more time, and I will jump right into it. I will briefly introduce the topic. So I'm a PhD in the field of entrepreneurship. So this is where I'm coming from, and I am leaning into an emergent dynamic view on venture creation. And the extant literature here mainly highlights three characteristics of venture creation that we have to take into account. One is that venture creation is a social project, which requires interaction, and the social environment is argued, for example, to influence opportunity perceptions. Second, reoccurring or frequently mentioned criteria is that it's an iterative process, a process of change and refinement, which encompasses continuous reevaluation of the venture pursuit, and nascent entrepreneurs facing the decision to, or continuously facing the decision to continue, abandon, or pivot or change their venture pursuit. And the third often mentioned characteristic is uncertainty. Information is scarce, especially in early venture creation processes or attempts. And here it is argued that a critical driver of venture creation is therefore the subjective emerging judgment of an opportunity of the nascent entrepreneur. And this has been labeled opportunity confidence. And this is what we are also focusing on. So prior research so far has focused primarily on very, I would say, straightforward relationships between opportunity confidence, or the positive evaluation of a venture pursuit, and venture activities and venture emergence. So for example, it has been found that having high levels of opportunity confidence increases the likelihood of engaging in venture activities, and therefore increases the likelihood of venture emergence, and of course vice versa if opportunity confidence is low. But we have a limited understanding so far of changes in opportunity confidence and also implications for venture development. What we are focusing specifically on in our project is a specific type of entrepreneurial effort, revision effort, also referred to as idea work, as a response action to changes in confidence. So we are not looking at confidence and then you implement the venture, but changing confidence and then you do conceptual change to an idea. On the one hand. On the other hand, I also told you that the social aspect is quite important and quite often emphasized. And this is where we want to look into potential changes of opportunity confidence. We are looking here specifically into social learning biases as put forth by cultural evolution theorists, and more specifically, we look at prestige bias. And prestige bias, as suggested, individuals adapt knowledge, skills, and opinions of other individuals that are perceived credible or hold a certain status in a social group. So the argument here is that given the uncertainty of especially early entrepreneurial endeavors, individuals are likely very wary to these external assessments and weigh that input according to the characteristics of the assessment provider. And the characteristic we are looking at specifically is the prestige that this person is holding. So if we bring those aspects together, this is the overview model that I can show you. And the question that has resulted for us is, To what degree does prestige of the assessment providers influence the change in opportunity confidence and then subsequent idea revision extent? So we want to look into possible mediation here. When it comes to the research design, we, due to COVID, so first we planned to conduct a lab experiment, but due to COVID, we decided to move it into an online setting. And we followed a so-called manipulation-of-mediation approach, where mediation is supposed to be shown through the design of the experiments rather than statistical mediation. More specifically, we followed the double randomization design, whereas we conducted a series of 2 experiments. In the first experiment, we tested the relationship between exposure to external assessments on opportunity confidence directly and idea revision extent also directly and separately. Because there is no assessment without sentiment, we worked with this 2x2 matrix. So we had 4 conditions, prestigious, non-prestigious, and then always positive and negative sentiment for experiment 1. And what we did for experiment 2, following the Peeler and McKinnon manipulation-of-mediation approach, is that we additionally try to manipulate opportunity confidence to create more variance in the construct through self-encouragement or discouragement. I will explain everything in more detail later. Within one of these base conditions from experiment 1 to test for mediation via regression. The study is pre-registered with ethics approval, and the recruitment took place via academic prolific. So here you can see again our model with the added second experiment component of encouragement, discouragement manipulation. And if we split it up into the 2 experiments, this is what the models look like for each experiment. So in the first experiment, you can see we tested these direct relationships and conducted only a correlation between the delta opportunity confidence and idea revision. And in the second experiment, we tried to create more variance, and we're interested in the linear direct relationship between confidence and idea revision. In order for you to understand what has been going on, I want to walk you through the procedure that we implemented. So after the participants signed up on Prolific for our study and gave consent and everything, of course, they were given a predefined venture idea that we wrote to reduce noise. So everybody had the same idea. The only thing that they could do in the beginning was suggest a name and a location to increase psychological ownership. That was the idea behind it. And after that, they would move on to give an initial evaluation, an initial opportunity confidence rating with regards to this given idea. After that, we randomly distributed them into one of these conditions that I laid out to you before. And after we distracted them a bit with control variables, we let them evaluate again the opportunity confidence, or give again the opportunity confidence rating. So here we can see the within subject variance before or pre and post treatment. And from that, we can also calculate we calculated the delta opportunity confidence measure, so the difference measure, and can compare that across groups. After this evaluation phase, the participants were given the opportunity to change or revise the idea as much as they want. So they could delete, add, change aspects of the idea. The idea was given to them in a textbook, and they could just write. And we would extract through natural language processing cosine similarity values, and I will explain it in a bit. And that allowed us to get a proxy for idea revision extent. The procedure for experiment 2 is very similar, with the only difference is that all participants got the same base condition, which is prestigious negative. And then they were randomly asked to either self-encourage them by coming up with 3 pro arguments for the idea, or self-discourage them by coming up with 3 negative arguments for the idea, in the hopes of creating, as I said, more variance in the confidence measure. And then we wanted to know if there's a linear relationship between the idea revision extent and the delta opportunity confidence. Now I'm coming to the measures. So for opportunity confidence, we used a recently developed scale by Davidson et al. which is a holistic measure for ideas. So there's other measures out there or opportunities that focus on specific aspects like financial viability, desirability, and so on and so forth. This is a more holistic measure, which is more appropriate for very early idea drafts. We used the Slido from 0 to 100. The scale consists of 4 items. You can see an example. And we calculated the delta from subtracting the pre-test rating from the post-test rating. And regarding the revision effort indices as ultimate outcome variable or dependent variable, we used natural language processing methods, more specifically the Cosine Similarity. So what the algorithm does, it compares the original text with the new submitted revised versions and creates a value between 0 and 1. And the closer the value is to 1, the more similar are the supposedly revised version and the original version. And the lower the value is, the more revision, the more changes has occurred. We are also working with human raters at the moment to triangulate the results and get a subjective human evaluation on revision effort in it as well. And we will also have additional other indicators like the time that people took to do the revision task and the clicks. Just let me check to see how I'm doing with the time. Everything's fine. We also implemented we also used some controls that I won't talk in detail here, but we control for prior experience, venture experience, age, gender, nationality, the perceived task difficulty, motivation, and the likelihood of joining the venture. We can also work with that. Now I want to come to the, yes?
I was just wondering about this the pre-test ratings. Mm-hmm. Are they also controlled in some sense, so control for the level of confidence at this stage? Or are they just free to be as variable as they would naturally be? I mean, some people will initially be low and initially be very high, and that would perhaps constrain how much they can move or change their mind later on.
I mean, we can control for experience and maybe make some suggestions, but there's no other control. And I think you're already touching upon a thing that I'm currently thinking about, that this, like, starting out very high, very low might have influenced then the results later on.
Yeah, that would be perhaps expected if there's. All right, I was just wondering, and these, what did you call them? The assessment providers, right? They're kind of like the people giving feedback, right?
Yeah.
Are they? What do they signal? I mean, what does it look like? What do the subjects see? Do they express confidence, or they're just told that this is a prestigious individual, or what is the signal to the participant from them?
I've prepared slides where I could show you how the treatment looks. Due to the online setting, it's a written treatment, so they're presented with a person that is written up very prestigious and non-prestigious, following the.
So they're described as very prestigious.
They're described as very prestigious, and the sentiment is just, okay, they basically think it's a good idea and you should go for it, or they think it's not a good idea and you should probably take a step back. Yeah. It's very vague. We didn't want to give the participants already hints at what could be changed.
So it's like, here's a CEO from a fancy company or something like that, and he dislikes your idea, basically.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, if the format allows, I could already show you. Because I've prepared slides.
Okay, maybe later on if it's relevant.
If we have time, I'll show you later on. Yeah.
But I was wondering if this advisor is also expressing confidence in his assessment, or is that taken out of this whole experiment at this stage?
So there's no explicit expression of confidence.
All right.
So that I'm 100% sure this is a good idea. We didn't go into that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for the question. And with the other thing, I think you're foreshadowing something, and we should talk about that in the end. But yeah, results for experiment 1. So as I told you, in experiment 1, we just wanted to see if these 4 conditions that we had, if the groups then differed with regards to opportunity confidence and with regards to idea revision extent. here you can see the first basic descriptives. Sorry. If you look at the pre-test opportunity confidence, we can actually see that across groups, the means are very similar, which is not surprising since they haven't had the treatment yet. But if we look at the post-test opportunity confidence, so the confidence rating after they got the treatment, we can see that it branches out. And that is also reflected if we look at the calculated delta opportunity confidence ratings. So prestigious negative goes down by almost 13 points on average. Prestigious positive goes up by 7 points on average. And the non-prestigious are somewhere in the middle. And we can see here also with the cosine similarities that we are working here with very small increments, very small detail numbers. In order to justify the second experiment, we did a Pearson correlation, which was significant. So this is basically the green light to say, okay, we can do experiment 2 according to the Peeler-McKinnon paper. And if we look more into detail here regarding the differences in opportunity confidence, we did a repeated measures ANCOVA to account for the pre-test confidence values, and we found that there's a statistically significant difference between the 4 treatment groups and the post-test opportunity confidence, so the outcome, the after confidence. We also did an independent samples t-test to compare the slopes or the delta, and we also found a significant difference here. Interesting is if we look at the F statistics, we can see for the prestigious ones, they're much higher than for the non-prestigious treatment groups, and we also found no significant difference between those 2 groups when we compared them in a multiple comparison. Also, the changes are in line with our expectations. So it is not weird that prestigious negative, the people suddenly go up or vice versa. Then if you look at the second path, the difference in idea revision, as measured by the cosine similarity, we also found a statistically significant effect here between the treatment groups regarding their idea revision extent, though small. And if we look very detailed, we find a significant difference, especially between the prestigious negative group and the 2 positive groups, which which made us think that it's probably the sentiment is more important here than the prestige. Yes. This is just a quick overview of what I said. So these are our initial hypotheses. The ratings of the individuals went accordingly to the prestigious person, less so for the non-prestigious people. And there is a increase significantly to others for the people in the for the individuals in the sorry, the positive assessment of prestigious person will be greater than for individuals in the non-prestigious context. Yeah, so we can see prestige matters. Sorry, I just confused myself here. And here, this is what I said. Sentiment seems to play a greater role if we compare the revision outcome. If we look then at experiment 2, so this is then where we created additional, or we wanted to create additional variation with self-discouragement and self-encouragement and see if there's a linear relationship. We can also see here very quickly that pre-test, they also start out quite similar. Here they also branch out after the treatment, and we can see that both actually go down in confidence, so also the self-encouragement group. But this is not surprising since also both of these groups experienced the negative assessment as base condition. So both got the negative assessment of a prestigious person, and then on top of that, the self-encouraged, the self-discouraged. So this still goes a bit down. If we look here in the difference between groups, we can also find, running the same test as before, basically a significant difference between groups in post-test opportunity confidence. So here, the outcome differs, and also the slopes, the delta, differ significantly. And now the really interesting thing is we ran a linear regression here, and we could not find a statistical significant relationship between the delta confidence, so to the slope, and the revision extent. However, we ran the same test then with the post-test opportunity confidence, so with the outcome after treatment, ignoring the slope. And here we do actually find statistical significance. Yeah. So this would be our conclusion. There's no significant relationship so far between delta opportunity confidence and idea revision extent, and a positive linear relationship between post-test opportunity confidence and idea revision extent. And what that means is that the higher your confidence rating after the treatment is, the less you actually revise, because a higher cosine value means it's closer to 1, means there's less change going on. So we are, I mean, I'm still struggling, or not struggling, but I'm still in the analysis phase and trying to make sense of what is going on and learning a lot. But I think we can argue that there's evidence for mediation by design. I'm not yet super confident, as you can tell, making that statement, but to me it seems like that as a preliminary result. To round it off, I want to tell you where we are now, what we are doing next. So I told you that we're using human raters at the moment to rate the ideas as well, and so that we can triangulate the natural language processing results using a 3-point score measure. And what we also ask them to do is code the ideas. So the revised codes, they apply predetermined codes. So they have been, like, the ideas have been inductively coded partly and partly deductively coded from the literature. And we created a coder guide, which we gave the human coders. And the idea is that we can count the codes and maybe theorize if there's a link between a certain type of conceptual change and the opportunity confidence rating. So one thing that we maybe discover is that people with a higher confidence rating are maybe more likely to add to an idea, whereas people with a lower confidence rating are likely to subtract from an idea. This would be the exploratory idea that we are working on top now, next to still analyzing, of course. In a summary, so we investigated the link between exposure to external opportunity assessment, varying by prestige and sentiment, opportunity confidence and revision effort. We followed a mediation of manipulation approach using 2 online experiments. In experiment 1, we found a significant effect of the prestige X sentiment conditions on opportunity confidence and revision effort separately. And in experiment 2, we found a significant linear relationship between post-test opportunity confidence and revision effort, but not between delta opportunity confidence and revision effort. The analysis is still ongoing, and we have the human coders, as I said, as next step. And what we're also thinking about, because I still have budget left in my PhD account, if we should follow up with a 3rd experiment to maybe create more clarity or extend the project. Thank you very much for the seed funding and for listening. I hope you find it as interesting as we do. And any comments, questions are welcome.
Thank you, Martin, and thanks for spending the money so well. I think we can clearly tell from your papers that if you are a high prestige person, you should really think about the negative comments you might be given, because that seems to be something that can be really deteriorating, right? That the other effects might be smaller, but the kind of noblesse oblige kind that goes with high prestige seems to be found in your paper. That's really something to look out for, that you can talk other people's projects down, but may not increase them as much. So really interesting finding. Questions or comments or suggestions?
While you think, I can actually just show you, I prepared a lot. This would be examples of the treatment. Thank you, Christian.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
So in your first results, it seemed like the non-prestigious condition, their even positive feedback was still giving them lower confidence. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the dark. No,
that's this one. Yeah.
What color is that? Green? Yeah.
Dark gray blue, yeah. But yes.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Should be.
So first I thought about maybe it's really an effect of the prestige that they think like, okay, this person that doesn't really matter think it's a great idea. Maybe it's not a great idea because of that. Either that, or we also see, I mean, the F is very small. Also, I mean, it's significant was borderline. I think it was 0.048 or so. I'm not sure. So I don't know if it's really should even be considered.
It would be nice to see some variability along these on a graph like this, so we could see how much certainty there is around these estimates. But it's certainly very interesting, and these are very. So my initial worry is not that big. It seems like they're all clamping on around below 70%. So, and 50 here. Do you think could that be operationalized as chance level in the way that the scale is set up, so that people actually approaching completely 50-50 here, or what does it mean to be 55 or 50 on this scale? Do you think is 0?
Oh, you mean in the confidence rating?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
I just can't remember how the scale was sort of presented to them.
I think I have the. Yeah. So it was basically just 3 points, and the middle so here it was not confident at all. The lowest point, highest point is like very confident, very sure, and middle is kind of like a neither nor.
All right. So 0 would be more like I don't have any idea. I'm 50-50.
No, a 0 would be I'm very confident it wouldn't be a
okay.
good opportunity.
All right.
So I have no idea would be the middle, would be 50. Yeah.
Okay.
In different, I guess. Yeah. And yeah.
But certainly very interesting results. I'm very interested to hear what you find out with your final analysis. But thanks very much. And
Thank you.
If you have already some ideas about your next experiments, feel free to tell us more about it.
Yeah, so that's what we're thinking. If you have any on the spot, any good ideas, so if you think there's some aspect we should dig more into, I'm very open. I'm just collecting ideas right now on how this could go on.
A quick question, if I may. Oh, sorry, Carsten, were you?
No, please go ahead, Andreas.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, right. Okay, so thanks for a very nice presentation. This looks very interesting. So this is sort of following up on Carsten's questions regarding maybe some ceiling effects. Do you have any plots of scatter plots of the correlation that you're finding, especially because the cosine values that you're referring to are very, very close to 1, right? So one could worry that it's sort of pseudo ceiling effect. What you're finding, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we are still trying what we can do. One thing we did is actually log transform the cosines and turn them into cosine distance measures. But I don't. So I have to say I don't quite understand what is going on. So I felt more comfortable explaining the raw outputs that the algorithm gives us. Because some things do change if you do a log transformation. Some things that were significant are not anymore, and I don't quite understand why yet.
Right.
The other, yep.
But it was also more in terms of what then the raw data actually looks like. Like how do these sort of cosine values distribute themselves among this sort of population of participants you have, right?
It's very skewed.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, and then because you do have some variance, it seems, from the standard deviation values in your post-test confidence measures and also in your deltas, and it would just be nice to sort of see that variance plotted against those cosine values. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Carsten, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, I thought that would be one thing you could try is to repeat your analysis after set scoring all these confidence estimates. So standardizing them, set scoring them, and maybe that'll take out some of the individual variability, and just to see what that does.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to say much else without looking closer at it. But it looks promising.
I also thought about dummy coding maybe, because so the thing you hinted at the beginning is that I think why the delta doesn't work in the second experiment is partly because if people are already negative from the beginning and then after treatment they remain negative, they don't really have a delta. So I think these people have to be sorted out. So I have to dummy code maybe about like, is there change or do they just remain at the level? Did they just get confirmed in a way? That was another way I thought about it, yeah.
Yeah. Carsten Bernholz.
Yes, thank you. Just a comment to Carsten Olsen's former point about the non-procedures positive also going down. I think that's a good point, that maybe there should have been a fifth condition where there was no treatment. And I suspect that that would also go down because people get more time to think about it. I mean, it's a very short description of a business idea, and you can always find flaws in something the more you think about it. So I think that's a good point, that I think the reason why we see a slightly negative effect here of the two of the conditions here is that they just have more time to think. So that's just my speculation on this, but yeah, good point, Carsten.
So Martin, a suggestion for a follow-up study. So I know that you're still looking at the NLP data, but the rating that you were applying there seemed really interesting. So that idea to see, are people coming up with a really different idea, something that's basically an extension of there, or are they not changing at all? And it might be a different study, but it's particularly if we think of these kind of innovation scenarios, and that can be a matter of coming up with a research idea or an innovation idea. I think it's very important to think of the role of mentorship in these functions, right? And it seems like one of the things that a good mentor can do is that in a sense, he or she can help to push the project out of its current comfort zone and into exploring a different terrain. And it seems like with that coding that you have there, you might be able to begin exploring, what does it take for people to actually, so to say, fundamentally revise what they're doing in the view of the input that they get. So currently at IMC, we have kind of creativity as a loose theme for this year here, is continuing also into the autumn. And one of the things that a lot of creativity researchers are interested in is what does it take to shift your project into what some people call the adjacent possible. So those things that opens up just next to where you currently are, right? And I think, one very important aspect of these mentoring situations, etc., is under what circumstances are you actually able to see these opportunities or wanting to venture in there? I think that would be opening for a slightly different part of the project, because it's not just the confidence in it, but it's also seeing, when and under what circumstances, how do you build up sessions that can actually support people in revising the project, the status that they are at right now.
Sounds interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?